Hello, lovely people.
Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 Sophie Vlogs.
So I recently read two books which sort of directly played off of each other, and I just thought rather than wait until I do a big book chat roundup video, I would just sort of do a quick little brain dump of the thoughts that have sprung about. So these books are Chocolat by Joanne Harris and Eat Up by Ruby Tando. Essentially, this book was wonderful. This is Ruby Tando writing all about food and about how we relate to food and looking at a whole bunch of things that tie into that. So, our sexuality, our race, our class, our income, our mental health, all of these big topics. And this is sort of really trying to bring it back to eat without shame, eat what works for you, don't ascribe. I feel food has gotten very complicated. Food has become a point of food has reached a point where it's so tied in with really complex topics like ethics and um, personal value systems and morals and just the act of choosing what to eat sometimes feels very fraught and like you're navigating a minefield of, well, these are my personal ethics that I want to ascribe to. These are the things I value, like environmentalism, and for example, I'm vegetarian, like these decisions that I have made about what I will eat. And sometimes sometimes I just want to eat a cream egg and not have guilt associated with that, because sometimes you just need to eat a cream egg. Um, so this, if I hold it the right way up, this has been a very valuable reading experience for me. I feel like I have a fairly positive approach to food and eating, but like going vegetarian was a decision that I made because of where I'm at with my life, what I want to do, the effect that I want to have on the world, which is namely that I want to, if I, my ultimate ideal is that I would like to have a positive effect on the world, but if that's not possible, I would like to limit my negative effect on the world. That's why I went vegetarian, because that makes me feel more comfortable. I'm attempting to be more environmentally friendly and eco-friendly and make positive changes for the world. But sometimes that's a really big topic, and sometimes I don't feel up to it. Sometimes you're just like, oh my god, how yes, it's really important for us all to make small changes and move towards that, because that's what drives the big changes. But sometimes it's like 8 p.m. You've just got back on your bus because it was 40 minutes late, and you're just like, good God, I just really want to eat a load of chocolate. And then you're like, but, and then then sometimes I have the guilt because I'm like, I should be eating vegetables and eco-friendly organic shit. And then sometimes that's just not feasible. This is such a ramble. All I'm saying is, this has really been soothing and also rejuvenating, and has. I love food, I love cooking, I love reading cookbooks, I love just, so much about that, making food for people as a sign of love, as a sign of caring. I'm express my affection for people towards by giving things. That's not always just here's a present, but sometimes it's a home cooked meal, or for Christmas I've made a bunch of chocolate truffles to give to people. That way of food as expressing to people that they're valued and they're loved. That's a whole thing that I have. All of this rambly discussion ties back into Chocolat, which I read recently. I have seen the film of this, but I remembered absolutely nothing about this. If you don't know Chocolat, it is about Vianne, who arrives at this little French town, and it's a very religiously controlled town. Is he a reverend? Is he a pastor? I've now forgotten what branch of Christianity. Oh, Father Reynard. Is very strict, very ascetic, very controlling, and Vianne just opens this chocolate shop, and she just uses this chocolate as this way of bettering people's lives and reminding them to embrace happiness and to help make positive changes and all this stuff. So I read this before I read this, but then reading this made me appreciate this more. because plot-wise, this was absolutely fine. It was not a bad book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not like one of my favorite books, but I liked it. But then reading this really made me assess and revalue the role that Vianne is playing and the way that this chocolate shop functions as like bringing life back to this community and like pouring that love into people and stuff. So I don't really know if this video has much of a point to it. It's more just the fact that between these two books, it's really making me reassess how I approach food myself, how I approach food with other people, and the ways in which sometimes I get a bit lost in, and I have to remind myself of what it is I value. And one thing that Ruby talks about is that food is such an individual journey for each person. Like, I might choose what I'm eating based on like ethics, or I might choose what I'm eating based on practical financial. I don't have, maybe I'm very short on money, so I just buy like store cupboard things rather than like all of the oodles of fresh organic vegetables that I might in my soul want to buy or whatever. Or it might be to do with, like a myriad of things. And I'm just I've got all these thoughts now in my brain mulling over like my approach to food, my approach to nourishment, and unpicking those moments whereby maybe I'm applying unrealistic standards on myself, or maybe I'm unrealistic judgments on myself, all of this stuff. So this is just a ramble to sort of maybe open up a conversation like, what are your values when it comes to food? I don't know if that's what I'm asking. I guess what I'm saying is, this was super great and I'm thoroughly recommending it. This reminded me that I like using food as a way of expressing love towards people, and now I want to cook everything and make myself healing soup and make my friends delicious things to eat, and just, isn't food delightful? Yes. That's it. I'm gonna go now before this gets any more waffly. Side note, waffles are great. I hope you're having a really lovely day. I hope that you've eaten something that's nourished your soul. I hope that you're just wonderful, and I'll see you next week.